Awesome. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us here today to learn a little bit more about this office hours series. So this is our third one in the series, and we are very fortunate to have Brad here with us today. He will spend some time answering some questions from Vianne and Eric, and also answering a series of questions that have been submitted previously through people on our web's forum. So we appreciate that. Whether you're obviously here with us today or watching it later, we appreciate you taking the time to come out to learn a little bit more about what this pathway might look like. I'm just going to kick things off here with our territorial acknowledgement to acknowledge that the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land that's granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated with the Office of Indigenous Relations. So as we are all gathering here today from different spaces in different areas, I encourage everyone to take time to learn about your space and where you may live and work and learn and play as we all reside in different areas. So with that, we will kick things off here, and I'll pass it over to Brad. Brad, if you want to give it a little introduction of who you are, your title, where you work, anything fun you want to share with us.
All of that. Well, thanks for opening, Caitlin. It's great to be here. So as you mentioned, my name is Brad Silveira. I'm the National Brand Activation Manager for Bud Light here in Canada. We can probably have a lot of conversations about what that means and what my job entails, but for simplicity terms, what I manage is all of the below the line marketing for Bud Light across Canada. So any of the promotions you see in store and the promotions you see on pack, digital trade marketing is all under my team's umbrella, and I manage that team. So it's been a very exciting journey to get here, and I'm looking forward to the questions you guys are going to have.
Yeah, that's awesome, Brad. So I'm just going to start off with a couple of the really easy ones here that to get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll kind of open it up. So first off, can you tell us a little bit about your experience at Bud Light in terms of, like your growth and where you started and what that pathway might look like?
For sure. So where I am now is I'm 6 years into my career here at Labatt. Where I first started off when I was in school, when I left school, is I joined into Labatt through, there's different graduate programs or development programs. And so the one that I was hired into was called the Sales Development Program. There's a ton of different ones. There's brewing development, there's logistics. Every year there's a different group and cohort of kind of development programs that exist. And so for me, I was very fortunate to be involved in the sales development program. I started off in sales for about 16 months, 18 months, and I was moved up to Sudbury, and it was great. It was cold, but it was awesome. I learned a lot about rural environments and also just kind of understanding what sales means to both the customer side and also the commercial side of our business. From there, I moved on to the Bud Light marketing team. So I was the assistant brand manager on the marketing team for about 16 months, 18 months. Then I was on the Stella trade marketing team for about 2 years. And then I've been on this team now for almost a year, actually coming up. So 6 total years of Labatt. And I've got experience from sales all the way to trade marketing. So we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually have a question, Brad. How did you, like when you came out of school, how did you learn about this opportunity or this program?
Yeah, so I mean, like everyone else, when you're in school, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. And what I started doing is I applied to everywhere, whether it was at, this company I'm at now, Labatt, or a lot of other competitor beer companies at the time. But for me, it was just understanding about where my passions were going to go and going the old fashioned way of looking on their websites and seeing what jobs existed. I didn't know anyone at the time at the company that I really was able to reach out to and kind of have an in. I think most people assume that you got to know someone to get a job, and not the case for myself. It was just more of application based and having some luck throughout the interview process, which ultimately led me to the start of my career here. So I would definitely check out those websites. We keep ours very up to date and active, which is super helpful. So I would take a look at that. And then reach out to people on LinkedIn if there's a space that maybe you don't see an application or a career posted on their website. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that you can probably track down a lot easier and see if they have any questions that they can answer for you.
Yeah, that's really neat. I think it's just so good to know there's so many different avenues realistically, right? Like it's not just those job boards or Indeed or whatever. Like you can really do your own exploring for so many places that you don't even know or might not even think about. So that's great to hear about what that looked like. Yeah, Eric, I'll pass it over to you.
Brad, what did you study in school?
So I was in the rec and sports business program. I started off, I was actually originally in the co-op program, and I at the time was deciding between going towards teaching or more towards the kind of corporate environment that I'm in now. So one of the co-ops positions that I had was really interesting. I got to work in Switzerland at a boarding school, and I learned a lot about teaching and education and kind of where that path would lead you down in the future. Ultimately, I decided to kind of change my career because of co-op, which was super great. And I think it was better off for me now, seeing where I am now. It's been a great, leap of faith, I guess you could call it, but it's worked out. So started off in the rec and business program. Did two co-op terms, and then I switched out of co-op, ended up fast tracking the rest of my classes for about 2 years straight, and which allowed me to graduate when this job was starting. So it was all working backwards from there.
So you didn't have specific co-op experience in the corporate world per se?
No, not at all. It was very different experiences. So my teaching with where I was teaching in Switzerland, it was a very affluent school. So I learned a lot about more side of the top 1% of people and kind of what motivates them as a teacher.
You didn't want to end up teaching in Switzerland? What's wrong with you?
No, that would be a dream for sure. But I know I've learned a lot from traveling.
Co-op opportunities in Switzerland. That's pretty good.
It was
the
awesome.
World, Eric.
Wow.
It was great. But I think ultimately, like, it's, after you've been there for a little while, you kind of realize friends and family are a lot more important than where you're going to be traveling. And it was really hard to get back home for most of the time. So great experience. And I really don't regret it at all, because I realized that teaching was something that I can apply to my job now. And I think that's kind of where different co-op opportunities, maybe it's not something that you want to do later on, but I think the experience is always extremely helpful no matter where you're going to go. And you never know when that experience is going to come to be helpful for you. So the teaching aspect is really important for my job now, because I work with so many different levels of understanding of whatever problem we're going to be looking at. And everyone comes from a different background of how they want to look at solving a problem. And when you're looking at teaching, I think the good teachers that exist, try to understand the student's problem of why they don't understand, instead of just repeating it 5 times the same way. You got to try to put yourself in their shoes and understand how to solve the problem in their lens. So applying that to where I am now helps me when, you're in sales and you're learning different buying behaviors, emotional intelligence, all of that kind of comes into play. So just having a broad range of experiences helps you, connect with people in a different way.
Yeah, that's cool. It's kind of funny you say that when you did your co-op, it actually made you help decide what you didn't want to do. In our earlier session, Heather was talking about that too, no, it was Courtney, how it was like, went through co-op and then was like, you know what, like, I'm really not interested in this, and this isn't what I was thinking it was, kind of thing. So co-op's really good either way, right? Like it kind of can solidify that, yes, I love this, or it is that short period of time to be like, ooh, you know what, like, this isn't something that I'm super interested in. And it really kind of allows you to see that balance. So I think that's really great. Kind of relating it back to your rec and sports business degree, a question here from one of the students is, do you have any main takeaways from your degree at Waterloo, and do you feel like it prepared you for the future?
Wow. Lots of things to unpack with that one. So for the rec and business program, and maybe things have changed from when I was there, but allowed you to take a lot of your business courses at Laurier, and then allowed you to take kind of your supplemental courses that were at UW. So for me, I was very interested in marketing. I was very interested in taking as many courses in that nature. Like, accounting was really good at UW. I know there's a lot of intimidation on accounting or economics, but I think having a baseline understanding of, your puts and takes, your credits and debits every month, you don't need to be an expert, but I think that's extremely helpful. That's just again, as a baseline knowledge when you're getting in here. Every company's going to probably teach you their own ways of how to do something. What I was learning through the program was more of how to solve problems in different ways. And I think, some of the courses that are in the rec and leisure, probably at the time you're maybe thinking, how is this going to help me in my career? How is this, this rec and leisure course going to help me when I'm trying to go into a pitch negotiation or something like that? But I think the more important thing is not necessarily the tangible pieces you're learning. It's just how to think, how to look at a problem in a different way, and how to put yourself in someone else's situation so you can solve the problem in a way that's amicable for both people. And I think, sometimes you work with people from different universities, like whether it's Ivy at Western, and, they're very analytical, I would say, on how they approach certain situations. Not everybody, but I think that's maybe a default of what they know. And I think when you come out of maybe a different arts degree, you look at problems in a different way.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's so accurate that sometimes you're in it and you're like, why am I learning about this? Or like, how is this going to be applicable? And you don't realize it until you step out into the workforce and you're like, oh, shoot. Yes, that teacher was right. Yes, that professor was right. Right. So that's interesting. I have one more for you here from the same student, and then I'll open it back up to Eric and Vian. Were there things that you didn't learn within your course that you wish you would have taken away?
The things I didn't learn. Wow.
What did you have to learn on the job that you weren't prepared for?
A lot of things. When I started off in sales, actually, let me take a step back from that. I think when you're leaving university, there's a lot of hope and excitement for what could be. And for me, sales is something that, you can usually, if you're going towards a business and you're extroverted, maybe so like I am, you think you can learn things along the way, and that's fine. But for me, coming out of school, I found that being open-minded into different experiences was going to be the most helpful thing for you. And so when I was trying to apply into sales roles, I was thinking that would be your step one into a company, and from there you can open up the door and go further. I think I had this perception that I didn't know things, and I think that's not correct. Well, you should almost look at it as, how can you be a sponge in any environment you're going to be in, and learn as much as you possibly can? Because to my point earlier, you don't know what's going to be useful for you later down the line. So I guess to me, what I wish I would have learned more is kind of more the technical fundamentals. Like now I'm doing stuff like coding and a lot of major budget work or Excel functionality that I didn't have the technical skills, or I didn't really need to have it. You can get by without it. You don't need to have massive Excel tables and crazy long algorithm formulas that we're writing now to predict things. But I think just getting yourself comfortable is the baseline of any university course. It's not for you to net be an expert unless that's your major, fine. But it's more of, how can you get a little taste of everything, so when you are in the real world and you have to make a decision, it's not as intimidating. You kind of have a little bit of experience to get your one foot in. And then what we were kind of talking about before is that full mind, like well-rounded approach of how you're going to solve a problem is always being open-minded. And I think that's what we did UW really well, is always considering, other ways of solving a problem rather than the black and white, corporate world.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point.
I got into sales about 10 years out of school. I was in other areas of kinesiology before then, and sales, they don't prepare you at school for that. It's its own beast. It's got its own set of rules, and really got on the job training in the first organization that I joined, like some very basic type of principles to do with sales, and then you kind of grow from there. And it varies depending on the organization you end up with, but there is kind of a baseline to start at, and I certainly didn't have any exposure to that before, going and getting the training at a company.
Exactly, and I think when you're in
the
when you're
business
in
programs
school,
may be different now. They may offer a bit more of that, but I'm going way back, and certainly our program wasn't anything called business, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
all that together, like, it helps you present yourself for an interview. And I think, one piece actually I did learn now is, when you are applying for jobs and you're writing your cover letter or you're writing a resume, I don't know if people know this or not, but a lot of companies will use software to sift through your resumes. And so when you are looking at writing your resume, it's about understanding the job you're applying for. It's a little bit of selling yourself, but also you need to make sure you're getting caught in that filter to make it through that process. So all that comes with experience. I think just making sure you're going to fail and not thinking that that's the end of the world is all part of the process. And when I think we've all been in that situation when you're in high school and then you're in university and people are asking you what you want to do with your life, and by the end of it, all of a sudden you're supposed to have all these answers. That's not the reality for a lot of people. So be okay with failing. That's the way things go. I mean, if you fail in school and you fail your grades, not good. But if it's a learning lesson and
well, nobody's got 100% close rate in sales. There's always failure, right? And you have to not worry about it.
Yeah, for sure. Vian, do you have any questions for Brad?
Yes. Are there any specific activities you remember doing in university that you would recommend for like co-op students to try? It's like I'm looking for more like clubs or like research opportunities. I'm not sure which is like a good route.
Yeah, so I would say that for me personally, I didn't get involved in a lot of the extracurriculars that were available. I had a lot going on. I was playing hockey at the time, so I had a lot of things going on outside of school myself. So that kept me busy for sure. I would say that I would say you need to find what you're passionate about. Don't do things just because other people are doing it. I think that's, you're going to get into a job, you're going to get into a career eventually one day. I hope that, you're going to have a really big problem and you're not going to know how to solve it. And I think when you get into that situation, if you're not passionate about the work you're doing, it's very difficult to motivate yourself to find an answer or find a solve. So whatever you're interested in, it doesn't matter. It could be literally anything. There's a job probably for it. And if you're passionate about something, you're going to be better than someone who's not passionate and they're trying to fake it. And I think, it's kind of silly to say, and I'm very lucky to say that, working for a beer company is amazing. It's awesome. I'm super passionate about beer. I've been, drinking here for a few years now. So I'm very passionate about what I do. And so when we do have major challenges or hurdles or timelines, I can understand, the consumer point of view of what they're looking to get out of it. And then I can use that to try to solve the problem. But, for clubs or experiences and things like that, it's just try and put yourself out there to learn as much as you can. And then realize that ultimately, like, you're always going to be learning no matter how old you are and no matter what you're doing. It's all part of growing yourself as you go forward.
Then you're looking at things that are sort of outside of the curriculum, extracurricular personal interest things, just to, for fun.
Yeah, like just for fun, honestly. Also, like I was looking into like research, and I wasn't like, I don't know, like I was trying to like talk to people who have like experience with research. So I was just like curious to see like what you did in school. But yeah.
Me personally, maybe not so much. I mean, I can speak on more on behalf of the sciences from other people's experiences around me, is that when you are doing or you have an opportunity of working on a research project, you have no idea the people you're going to meet along the way or the questions that they might ask you and how that's going to help your own development. I think I don't think there's a way you can look at a club or an extracurricular and go, oh, that's going to unlock my future. We're good. No problem. Everyone's going to do this. No, it's not that. It's how can you put yourself in a situation that you're wanting to learn more about it. And then through your natural curiosity, you're going to find opportunities. Alternatively, you could be working on a project and someone sees you and you have a lot of passion for what you're doing and they want to take you on their journey. And then, you can collaborate and grow your network through that way. So it's impossible to grow your network if you're not going to get involved in something. You got to take a shot and see what works out. And if it doesn't, you had fun. And that's why I think trying to nail down what you're actually motivated by and what excites you every day, it's very hard. It's very difficult. Obviously, I'm in a position where I'm very fortunate to be in that spot, but I still think there's a lot of people who aren't lucky or they don't get their chance and they get discouraged. And you never know when an opportunity is going to come across. But if you're not getting involved, then nothing's going to come your way.
I think there's a lot of clubs and different extracurriculars on campus now compared to years ago. I didn't really do much when I was going through, mostly just school and partying kind of thing. But I think there's a lot more. Yeah, a lot more organized things now when you hear about what people are into. Different games clubs and card clubs and things for fun. So. I don't know if there's a directory of that sort of thing on you certainly can find that in research. I think I'd probably just stick with the professors that you're exposed to and the faculty or the research interest that you have, and just approach them, see if you can volunteer for a couple of hours, just get your feet wet and see what it's like, and just put yourself out there.
Yeah, and even to add to that as well, I think it's a good piece to note is more so like profs and teachers and people who you might look up to as a student, they are willing to help you. It's not like they're sitting here closed door going, oh, I don't want to help anyone. It's very motivating and self-rewarding for them as well to help someone grow. So, give them the opportunity to help you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have another question here from a student. So I guess they're assuming that you have like a leadership role in your job, which I don't know if you have a team under you or what your team size looks like or what that looks like. They're wondering how you grew your leadership skills and if this was through school or if you grew your leadership skills through your career.
Great question. Both. I think there's a lot of things that people don't realize are leadership qualities. Planning a night out with your friends to go out to a bar is a leadership quality in a group. And there's a lot of things that people don't value. I think if you look at your friend group, you can probably think of one person off the top of your head. You're like, yeah, that's a planner. Like whether it's a themed event or whatever. you don't have to be the person, but by association, you can see how things are done. So just being cognizant of how others are around you at all times is something that you can help yourself by learning. I mean, I do have a fairly large team. I have people in each region, and then there's a sales team as well. So I think there's about minimum of 20, 25 people that I guess report into me for different functions, as well as we have agencies that work for us as well. And that would probably extend to another 50 probable people. So there is quite a few people that I guess report into me, which is great. How I learned on the job on that is taking on different, stretch projects or different things that are outside my current work scope. So when I was in sales, as an example, I was fresh out of school, and again, having that sponge mentality of joining a team and knowing that you're coming in with the least amount of knowledge is just check yourself before you get into the meeting and understand that people have been doing this for longer than I've been alive, and they have a lot to teach me. So coming in with that and just saying, hey, how did you do this? Or how can I do this? Can I go on a ride day with you? Can I learn and put yourself and give yourself, I guess, I should say, put yourself out there where you have a risk of being shut down. It also allows you to kind of feel uncomfortable in a way. By allowing someone to teach you and absorbing that in the right way, you will eventually learn the ways that you can maybe teach someone else, the good or the bad. Someone can teach you something and you're like, hey, this person doesn't know what they're doing and I don't want to be like this at all. And that's your benchmark for what not to do. Alternatively, it works the other way around. So through the last few years, I've had different experiences. When I was in sales, I was a little bit more tech savvy than some of the old vets on my team, and I helped them build budget files on Excel, or, we have back-end tools for analytics, whether it's, volume or market share, distribution, things like that, is showing them tips and tricks on how to work more efficiently and more effectively. And that was the value that I could bring to the team. And then in exchange, I could present that to the team and have more of a dialogue, and you build your own value on the team. And then through that, you're going to have more opportunities to stretch yourself. So first is obviously just understanding what you're doing in your job and being open to criticism, which is great. You're going to learn. When you get comfortable, then you can start taking on more projects and more work that can show your leadership skills. Eventually, ultimately, you're going to be in a position, hopefully, that you got to manage a lot of people who are a different age and different experiences around you. And it goes back to just always remembering, as a teacher or as a person, you need to put yourself in their shoes. Everyone's got a lot of stuff going on, and maybe work's not their number one priority, but you as a manager need to kind of have your hands involved to some capacity to make sure that your team, is doing okay. And also having the flexibility to step in and sometimes make hard decisions, which is, never really comfortable when you're first starting out, but ultimately, you gotta grow, and you gotta make some decisions along the way that are going to help you become more comfortable down the line. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's completely accurate for sure. So, like obviously there's skills you're still going to continue to learn in your workforce, right? You'll be a different leader in 5 years from now than you probably are now. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Eric, any questions from you? Oh, sorry.
You never stop learning. I mean,
Yeah.
even at this ripe old age and the things that I've been involved with the last few years, I've learned a heck of a lot of new things. So you could turn it off and stop learning if you want, but it's not really a good idea.
Pretty hard to do. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else from you, Eric? I have 2 more questions here from the students, so I thought I'd open back up.
I'm enjoying this. Keep it going.
Awesome. All right. So this question is more about when you were in school. Did you change? Well, I guess you talked a little bit about wanting to be a teacher, but did you change career paths? And was this always a path that you knew you wanted to take?
So I could just kind of repeat it. When longer story short, yes, I did want to become a teacher. The reason for that was because when I was a student, I was often kicked out of classes for doing things maybe I shouldn't have. Which really motivated me to prove to a lot of teachers that I had that you should have been doing things differently. And I think because of that, it kind of gave me this motivation to be better than the teachers that I had around me. And then ultimately, that's a long fight. You can always have that in the back of your mind, but I think I have more skills and more value in other places by taking that attribute and applying it in a different way. So I guess just trying to see what you're interested in and not thinking you need to have it sorted out and figured out along the way is also important. It's very dynamic and, malleable as your life goes on and things change. You never know when an opportunity is going to come up or what it's going to be. So, going from the teaching side of things into where I am now, I definitely had some career changes, but everything was learned along the way. And who knows what I'm going to be doing in 5 years? Maybe it's Maybe it's teaching. Who knows?
What
And what was
was
the
your
second
first?
part of the question?
No, that was pretty much it. What was your first co-op job in?
A butcher shop. Yeah, very
Interesting.
different. So a friend of mine at the time, I don't want to say the company, but he has a butcher shop, and there was a market stall at St. Jacob's Market. He had a processing shop in Kitchener as well, and then he has like a market somewhere else that I also don't want to say right now. But the company's doing really well. I have no bad issues. They're great. Just a friend of mine, and I'd prefer not to. So I worked there, and I learned a lot. We started our days at sometimes 4 in the morning because we need to have everything at St. Jacob's Market for 5 when everyone was coming through. I learned I learned a lot of real life experiences. Hard work is important, and it gives you the experience to show you what you may or may not want to do with the rest of your life. I think I was fortunate enough to work for people who, at the factory were always telling me, like, listen, man, you got a bright future, try to do something different and try not to stay here. Don't be complacent. But also at the same time, I think they also, wanted to see the younger people that were working there maybe do something different. So, I think that's just being open to experiences and learning. I loved my time there. I learned an absolute so many things that I've never thought they were going to be useful until I'm at a grocery store buying salami and I'm like, oh, I know this is bad or this is good, or people are worried about what's in their hot dogs, and it's nothing to worry about. It's all the same stuff. But those little anecdotal experiences are super helpful because, again, you never really know, right? Like, I'm going to buy steaks for the weekend. Most people just buy whatever they want, and somehow through this random experience, I am more educated in that space.
That was an official co-op job through rec?
Yeah. So, the friend who owned the business needed help doing marketing and digital marketing and sort of like advertising his business. When you work for a small business, you don't wear one hat. You do a lot of different things. So along the ways, when we were doing maybe office work from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 or whatever it was at night, I thought it was more helpful for me to be there early in the morning to learn kind of like the processing, the back end stuff of it. And also, small businesses, you don't have a lot of people to do a lot of different jobs. So you step up where you can.
That's interesting.
Really interesting.
Thanks for sharing that.
You mentioned you played hockey. Was that varsity?
Did not play varsity. No.
Oh.
No, I did not. There was some
hockey outside of school.
Yeah, so it was at the time there was like some junior B stuff that was happening, and then at the time I was trying to play, and then I had the reality of you need to get a job and grow up. So that's where I had to put my focus into some book learning.
Yeah. That transitions well into this question. So understanding you played hockey and you said you kind of fast tracked your degree at the end too. With your extracurriculars and your education, how did you find you managed your time effectively?
Wow. I still struggle with this constantly. I'm an all or nothing person, and it is so difficult to do that now that I have where I am now. So when you're in high school, when you're in university, I think you look at projects as a way that you can close it and move on. And there's a lot of, I guess, internal reward by, you study for an exam, you write the exam, you're done, you have that mental reward, and you can kind of push on, move on through that. Where I've learned now is that's not the case when you get into the real world. There's 15, 25 major projects that I have to parallel path along the way. And so I think I've learned the wrong way. I learned by doing the things that you shouldn't do, which is probably the moral of my life at this point, is doing things the hard way, but that's just who I am. So how to manage your time effectively is very, very difficult. And I think it's a skill that everyone continues to learn. Where I would say that I can give advice or give tips on it is I write a lot. Like, I have notebooks everywhere, and I try to, as you can tell, I try to set certain things. I block my days off differently now. So what I try to do earlier in the week is to meet my teams and understand what are our main deliverables for the rest of the week. Through that, I can have usually an hour or two, actually Thursday or Friday, to catch up on all that and close the week off accordingly. So it's understanding who you're responsible to, who you're responsible for, and making sure you're planning accordingly to make sure you're hitting those deliverables, and also booking in time for chaos. I don't know how else to explain it, but you're never going to be on the right path that you think you're going to be. And if you schedule every second of your day, if something doesn't go according to plan, you're going to be maybe in a tizzy and you're going to not know how to move forward on it. So account for that, chaotic world that's going to happen. block your time as best you can. And if you're having a bad day and you want to spend an hour on something, and you can't, then don't do it. It's sometimes better just to walk away and try again another time. And other times you got to have to push through because your deadline's happening. So I think it's just more about self-motivating. If you're accountable to other people, or finding a way to motivate yourself, to me, it's, either I'm accountable for someone or I'm trying to support someone. So therefore I need to make sure I'm getting things done for them. And then working backwards from there to make sure you're not wasting time doing things you don't need to be. So making your notes, and then also as you go through and you do similar projects or you have similar asks, the first time you go through and you do a project, maybe it's wrong or maybe it's not the most effective or efficient way of doing it. But the second time you do it, you need to be able to critically think and understand which ways you can build kind of neural pathways to make it quicker for the next time, those shortcuts. And a lot of times you're going to be doing something for the first time, which is okay. The second time you do it, needs to be more efficient or else you didn't learn anything. So I'd say just be open-minded on, when you're doing similar tasks, how you can maybe take those learnings to the next project you're on.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I like that. Second time you do it, what you learn, let's do it better.
Yeah, the
That's
first
really
time you
great
got to
point.
get it done, it is what it is, right? Maybe it's not pretty,
Yeah.
but it's like folding a fitted sheet. Like, I don't know how to fold a fitted sheet, but I'm sure if, you know what I mean? Like, if I actually was accountable and do it,
there is a
I'd fix
YouTube
it.
thing for it. I haven't looked it up though, but I saw it once briefly
Magic.
pass by, and it's that looks neat, but I got to look it up and actually see how that works.
It's brutal. I know. I folded one how many times in my life, and let me tell you, I have not got much more effective. But I mean, there's some things. There's some things you're just going to be stuck on.
Probably not.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, that is through my list of pre-submitted questions. Is there any other questions from Deanne or Eric before we wrap things up?
No, this is great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Quick question. How did you get into teaching in Switzerland?
It's a great question. So in co-op, there was 5 terms, I think, right? The first term when I was, doing my butcher shop, getting up at ungodly hours, a friend of mine, actually, he got hired and he had a Swiss passport, so he was able to work in Switzerland. And then when he came back, he was telling me all about it. We were both at the time interested in teaching. He had such good experience. He kind of showed me, hey, this is something we can apply to. And no problem. The challenges became getting my citizenship. So I have Portuguese citizenship now, which allows you to work in the European Union. I had to go through all that process, become a citizen, get your passport before you could even apply for that job.
You had to get a passport, not just a visa?
Correct.
Wow.
So it was
must be easy.
It was a very expensive, very long process to work with Portuguese government, Canadian government, just to get forms signed off and everything. To get the passport was very challenging, which is great that I have it now, so I can work in the EU, and we have a lot of offices there. So that's something that's always interesting. But then when you're applying it as well, like if you need to have a European citizenship or a passport to apply to the jobs, the good thing is it narrows down the application pool to a very limited amount of people, and I think that helps you stand out amongst other people, and that's kind of how it came to be. So first, obviously, just someone says, hey, you can go work in Switzerland. That's pretty cool. Why not? Figure out how to get there. And then just making sure that, I had all the paperwork sorted out along the way was probably a bigger challenge than anything else.
Was it on Waterloo Works, or did you find it like separate?
Correct. Yeah. Through the university. Yeah.
It was on it. Yeah. That's awesome.
The person who...
Is that the co-op directory?
Yeah.
I didn't do co-op, so I don't know how it all works. There's a listing of opportunities for every co-op term, and you apply to what you're interested in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the person she was a liaison between the school that I was working at and UW. Her name was Mary. She used to do all of the coordination for all the UW students. Hopefully the job still exists. If not, I mean, look for opportunities that are international, because typically either if everyone can apply, maybe the application pool is massive, but I think there's a lot of international students that can probably separate themselves. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. It's such a great time in your life to take those opportunities, right? Because when you come out of school, sometimes, you get into something you love, and you don't have as much time to go away for 4 months or whatever that looks like. So such a great time.
Deanne, are you in your first co-op term?
I'm in my second, so I have like 3 more co-op terms.
What was your first one?
Yeah. What was your
did you
first
do
one,
for your
Mia?
first one?
It was remote. It was with Microsoft. I had to work on a project with a couple students. Yeah, it was about tech.
About tech. Can always take something away, right? That's what Brad was telling us.
You know you
No,
don't
that's
want
awesome.
tech.
And then
Exactly.
or you learn, yeah, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. So there's kind of both sides to that, right? So yeah. Oh, this has been great, Brad. Like, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge and, opening up and giving so many tips and tricks. I think this is so valuable. Though many students who watch it back and those who weren't able to attend, we'll make sure we send it out to them so they can take a viewing and all that fun stuff. So thanks for spending part of your evening with us here. Best of luck as you continue on in your journey, and maybe we'll see you at the next.
Yeah, for sure, guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate the opportunity of being here.
Where are you based, Brad?
Toronto right now. I know it looks like I'm in a closet, but we have these little phone call rooms that makes it soundproof for me and everybody else. You can't hear the chaos that's happening outside the office.
Have you come back for any alumni weekend events?
I am not even enough. I don't spend enough time in Kitchener for my parents to be happy, let alone any other thing. So, yeah, add it to my list, I guess, of things that I need to go back and do.
Well, the Black and Gold weekend, the alumni tent for the football game is a real good event. We have a lot of fun there. I've been going for almost 10 years now, and
awesome.
A little bit of food, a couple of beers, and this year we actually won the game. Caitlin was there.
Hopefully the team's doing better than when I was in school, because I know it was not always a positive
they lost
season,
their last playoff game to Laurier, 69-0. Did you see that?
Yeah, we'll just leave that out, Eric.
Oh my God!
You know what? All the guys that were in the pro, I mean, I shouldn't. Most of the guys that were on the football team that are in the program, I don't know. I think that they looked at football as a way of networking and not so much the result of the games all the time. And they ended up doing some pretty cool stuff. So
yeah.
Again, it's all about what you want to take from it, and if you look at things and don't want to take anything from it, that's your choice too. Like,
we've had some good players over the last few years. I think the program is trying to get much better. We had Heck Crichton 2 years in a row. We had Trey Ford for 2 years there. So, they ain't just goofing off.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been great, Brad. Again, thanks so much for spending some time with us here.
Thanks,
and
Brad.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Just thanks. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So keep in touch and
like I said before, guys, if there's any other follow-up questions or people want to talk more about it, I'm sure there might be some follow-up questions. Happy to join in and have another call. I know it's a tough time for a lot of students when they're looking at getting new jobs, and hopefully we can put their mind at ease a little bit. But I think you guys are doing a good job. So let me know if there's anything else I can help with.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Brad.
Awesome, guys. Have a good day.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Jan. See you.
Yeah, good to see you, Eric.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.